American law enforcement continues to exploit see something, say something in America's post-9/11 cowardice that deprive citizens of their constitutional rights. This holds true for the First and Fourth Amendments in particular. How appalling to think that the very people who are supposed to uphold the law don't know the law themselves. And the reason is because they don't have to know the law. They're too well protected, too well insulated. Quite often, police are protected even in the most egregious examples, such as what the Aurora, Colorado police did in 2019 to Elijah McClain. For God's sake, look at this picture. Look at this 23-year-old man who was doing nothing more than walking home from a convenience store. A Darren called, said he was sketchy. The police showed up, used that call as an opportunity to go hands-on. For 15 minutes, they beat and tortured Elijah. 15 minutes. And then when the EMS showed up, they pumped him full of ketamine, and between being beaten up by the police and being pumped full of ketamine, Elijah was dead just a few days later. And his murder at the hands of police and EMS didn't even make a blip on the radar. Hundreds of hours of research, and it was only after Part 1 had gone to print that I first heard about the murder of Elijah McClain. They almost got away with it. And the only reason Aurora, Colorado police didn't is because of George Floyd. There's a video that I want us to watch. Now, I know you're going to know about it. It's what happened to Mr. Bulldog down in North Carolina. Just outrageous. I mean, you know how it goes. Well, I'm sure most of you have already seen the video, so I'm not going to show the whole thing. I'm not even going to show the majority of it. I'm just going to pick out maybe 4 or 5 little short excerpts to hammer home the point I'm trying to make. That's all. And then we'll get into a little bit of an analysis after that. The scene is Mr. Bulldog's out engaged in public photography. He's not bothering his soul, but someone called the police. A Darren or Karen called the police. So they show up and they do their typical police thing. They make a false arrest for failing to ID.
Excuse me? All right, how can I help you? Is there a reason I'm doing a job? Yeah, to make money.
Okay, people have just been calling, just thinking it's kind of weird.
It's journalism. I'm sorry.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, it's protected under the First Amendment, so...
I'm not saying you're not...
Sorry about that.
All right, but hold on. Hold on.
Am I being detained?
Yeah, right now.
For what? For which crime?
So I'm further investigating why you're walking around.
What crime? That's not a crime. Walking around isn't a crime. You have to articulate a crime before you can detain me.
Okay, but I could also detain...
Supervisor.
Supervisor, okay.
Yep. You can't detain just anyone. You have to articulate a crime.
I can detain
You're incorrect.
While I further investigate.
Get your supervisor and let's find out.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh my God. He's been detained so she can investigate why he's walking around. I thought he told her why he's walking around. See, this isn't about good police work. We know that. And people who think this is a free country, I've got something I want to say. Stop saying that.
Name and badge number.
Officer Ashley Lance, Jacksonville. 36. You dispatch your supervisor. Badge number 861.
Thank you.
Do you have your ID on you?
I do not.
She's just requested ID, so now this is the break point. Let me ask you this. How do you think this is going to fall out? Is she going to simply ask, or is she going to start demanding?
I don't even know who complained. It came out as anonymous.
This is a constitutionally protected activity.
Oh, I see. It's an anonymous report that she received over the radio or the computer. So she hasn't talked to anybody. She's only acting based upon the squelch of a radio. A radio call. The squelch of a radio. Now, guess what? You wonder why I get pissed off that people won't or don't buy my books, especially Part 2 of Rise of the Oathbreakers. Oh, let me show you why I get pissed. Oh, by the way, you guys are detained. This is the first page of Section 25, Rise of the Oathbreakers, Part 2. Reasonable suspicion of a call. Let's take a closer look, though. It's the paragraph in italics that really tells the story and conveys the message I'm trying to get across. So let's take a closer look at that and we'll read it together. For all intents and purposes, a police officer who bases a stop and detention solely on a call for service is using either the squelch of a two-way radio or the ringtone of a cell phone as reasonable suspicion of a crime. This is exactly what we're seeing play out in the video and what's ultimately going to lead to Mr. Bulldog's false arrest for failing to ID. But I'm not done. There's something else I want to show you from Part 2, okay? Even though more than 50 years have passed since the Terry decision, the average incompetent police officer is going about it all wrong. Rather than articulating a specific crime as required, they are instead using mere suspicion to detain. In other words, an incompetent police officer only has to say, "You're suspicious," to ruin a life. Oh, but there's more. Remember, what is suspicious to one person is everyday life to someone else. Not to mention the fact that without a uniform definition, police officers would have the last word on what comprises suspicious behavior. It gets worse. An unlawful detention is almost always followed by demand for identification, which means a free trip to jail if the person fails to comply.
Sir, I'm not saying you're not allowed to report.
You are. By your presence here, bothering me while I'm working is telling me I'm not allowed to do this.
Okay. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Okay.
But I'm investigating why we're getting calls about someone walking around.
Walking around isn't a crime, though.
For the record, Mr. Bulldog's doing a fantastic job, but the problem is he's dealing with an idiot cop. She just said that she's investigating the reason they're getting calls. Okay, if that's what you're investigating, officer idiot, that means you're supposed to go back and talk to the person who made the call. Oh, that's right, you can't because they're anonymous.
Crime, though.
I never said it was a crime, but I still have the right to detain.
No, you do not.
Okay.
So I'm being illegally detained right now, is what you're telling me.
That's what you want to say?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
I never said it was a crime, but I still have the right to detain you. I think that pretty much says it all.
Okay. But you're not identifying yourself, you're refusing?
What crime have I committed?
So at the end of the day, if law
It's not the end, this is the beginning.
Listen to me for a sec. So if law enforcement requests your identification, right? Your name, your date of birth, your ID card, your driver's license number, you are obligated to give that to law enforcement.
No, you're not.
Okay.
Not unless you can articulate a crime.
So I can articulate that this
Walking
is
around is not
behavior.
suspicious. Isn't a crime.
Okay, but it is something we have to investigate.
It's not a crime, so I don't have to comply with anything. I don't have to help you in your investigation.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you to identify yourself. You are refusing.
I haven't committed a crime.
That doesn't matter.
It does matter. No, I do not.
Okay.
You are incorrect.
Okay.
Raise your hand if you know more about making a lawful Terry stop than this officer idiot. And when her supervisor shows up, he starts the same thing. Suspicious activity, put your hands behind your back. No one articulated a crime. There is no crime to articulate. But they went after his ID because at the end of the day, they are goose-stepping Nazis and they're paper checkers. These people are evil. They're evil and dangerous. You notice that 99% of the times when the cops show up in a situation like this, which side do they pick, liberty or tyranny? Liberty or tyranny? Which side have they picked? They don't even try. All they know is how to make an arrest. It's the way they're trained. It's the way they're programmed. It's the way they're supervised, and it's the way they're evaluated. Lives are ruined because they don't know their job, but we're the ones who pay the consequence. Enough of this bullshit. Enough. The question is, why do on-scene officers behave like they do? What is it about their decision-making process that is so inherently flawed that they continually make bad decisions? How about we try to come up with some answers? Number one, they're not smart. Number two, low problem-solving skills. See also number one. Number three, poor training. That's the big one right there. Number four, quotas. Number five, peer pressure. Number six, arrest mentality. They don't care about circumstances or probable cause. They're there to make an arrest, and they're going to do it any way they have to. Number seven, power tripping. Oh yeah, that happens a lot, doesn't it? Number eight, no direct consequences. I think of what Loveland, Colorado officers did to Karen Garner. Remember that? 73-year-old grandmother with dementia. The officers tortured her. I mean, they broke bones and they hogtied her and they treated her like a piece of human trash. And then in the immediate aftermath, the Loveland, Colorado Police Department said what? They had the audacity, the balls to say that the use of force against Miss Garner was appropriate and justified. Talk about the sick message they'd be sending to their officers. Loveland, Colorado Police said it's okay to break the bones of an elderly woman. It's okay to break the bones of an elderly woman. Good to know. Number 9 is retaliation for whatever they want to retaliate against. Number 10, everyone is guilty of something, they just have to dig hard enough. Well, that's going to encourage constitutional rights violations. Number 11 is the officer is a certified asshole. The only thing that changes is how much of an asshole he is at any given time. But he's an asshole nonetheless. Number 12 is the officer's personality. They're not all assholes. That's just a fact. Some are quite quiet and meek and mild, and they listen and they do good stuff. So I don't want to mix all cops into the asshole category, because that's not true. It's not fair. At some point we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Number 13 is our good friend qualified immunity. 13 answers to the question, why do on-scene officers behave like they do, and why is their decision-making process so often flawed? What we saw in this video is representative of what we see in so many other videos when an officer makes an unlawful detention. They throw out two key words. The words are constantly abused by the police, and I'm not sure too many people ever pick up on them. The two key words that they abuse and have to be attacked both in the field and if there's a false arrest in court are investigation and any form of the word suspicious. Investigation and suspicious. Now that we've identified those two words, what are their definitions? They have to be defined, especially in context with a law enforcement interaction, which may very well end up in court. And that's where it becomes critical. For the purposes of demonstration, I use the definitions of investigation and suspicious from the Oxford English Dictionary, and that's probably the number one place to get your definitions is the Oxford English Dictionary. Sometimes they're called the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, but if it's from Oxford, not only do they have the definition, but they actually provide the historical context, like where was the origin of the word and who used it and when was it modified. According to Oxford English Dictionary, the definition of investigation is an official examination of the facts about a situation, crime, etc. She was investigating a situation and he explained to her he was engaged in public photography. End of investigation. Now let's check out the definition of suspicious according to the Oxford English Dictionary. For the handful who have probably made it this far into the video, you'll see why I do this. You'll see why I'm going over these definitions. This is what you hammer the officers with in court during cross-examination. Suspicious is defined by the Oxford English Dictionary. A feeling that somebody has done something wrong, illegal, or dishonest without having any proof. Ha! Wouldn't it be nice to read that definition off to Blondie in court? Again, a feeling that somebody has done something wrong, illegal, or dishonest without having any proof. That's why I do this. Oh yeah, riding the wave, baby. No time to lose, 'cause we are the champion. I am the champion.